Hey everyone, and welcome to Comic Breakdown. If you're new to the page, be sure to give us a like and a sub so you don't miss any of the content we have coming out. And today we're going to be diving into the Prelude for Ten of Swords. This is Excalibur, issue number 12. Now this will be the beginning of our Ten of Swords XMen event for 2020, and I believe this is going to cross over 22 different issues, and it's supposed to be really awesome, and it's supposed to be bringing a lot of things that we haven't seen before coming to the X-Men. Now, before we dive too deep into this, I do want to do a little bit of back history, just a quick freshener up so everybody knows exactly where we're standing as we dive into Ten of Swords event. So this all began with the Dawn of 10 era. You know, as it currently stands, the X-Men world, or the X-Men universe, if you will, essentially we saw all the X-Men inviting all of mutant kind, friend and foe alike, to the island of Krakoa to forge essentially a new nation focused on bringing mutants up to the rightful place in society and protecting mutant kind from any kind of threats that seek to exterminate who they are. Now, Krakoa itself is a mutant. It's essentially a living island. Think Danny the Block from DC Comics, or Danny the Brick. And so this has helped them be able to reach, some advancements in their society that humankind itself has never seen. But the thing about Krakoa is it once was one whole island separated into two. So Aroka was once part of Krakoa, and these two islands that are now separate were once one. And when they were both together, they were known as Okara. But using the Twilight Sword, the island was cracked in half. And Apocalypse, from what we know, or at least the stories we've been told up to this point, Apocalypse used the sword to be able to crack the island and defeat an unknown enemy, as well as ended up locking in one of his horsemen. And they've been stuck. Them and this island have been stuck in a place that's essentially unreachable. And so with Excalibur, we have Apocalypse teaming up with the X-Men and pretty much trying to use the other world as a power source. Now, to what extent, we really don't know, what all the plans are here. We don't really know exactly what's entailed, but we're definitely going to be diving in and finding out. So without further ado, let's dive into this issue. So getting to this issue, we're met with Apocalypse and all the High Lords. Now, these quote-unquote High Lords, are made up of Apocalypse, Cruel, Kandra, Selene, Gideon, Sal, Absalom, and Nicodemus. And Apocalypse has summoned them all to the eternal Caldera on Krakoa. And we hear him give a really long speech about the unique traits that set them apart from all the other mutants. And he tells all the High Lords, listen, we may have one point in time been the most powerful things in existence, but it's not like that anymore. We've almost come to the point that we aren't obsolete, but this coven of super mutants, of High Lords, doesn't have the same purpose that it once held. And Apocalypse tells them all this so that they don't fight back for what's about to happen, because he's hoping that they can understand the sense of community and what he's trying to build here, what future he's trying to hold on to. And this is where we see Rictor come flying through the portal that he had gone through, which this portal was originally and still is technically unpowered, so they didn't really know what would happen to it. And we see magma arise, and all the High Lords are immediately scattering. And he lets all the High Lords know, you guys aren't special anymore. We have people like him that have come to the ranks and have the potential to be High Lords. And that all mutants have this potential. We've reached the point in the mutant evolution to where you guys aren't the baddest ones on the block anymore. And so Apocalypse gives them a choice. They can use their ancient bones to empower the gateway to let the mutant kind expand past what it is, or they can try to deny the inevitable. And what's remaining of these High Lords try to fight back, but Apocalypse calls Selene, Rictor, and Gideon to his side, and we see them really just take these guys on like it's no issue for them whatsoever. And we see Rictor really summon all the power that he can, and he explodes pretty much taking out all these High Lords, or at least making them to where they're unable to have any be able ways of combating Apocalypse or anybody else. And this is where Apocalypse begins the ritual. Now, the reason he has to do this to the High Lords is because while these guys can be killed, but most possess rapid healing factors, and all return from the death if they meet true death, sometimes in different forms. And the unique thing about High Lords is they can always know where one another are, so they're always aware of where the other is, and they can communicate across vast distances as well. And when one external kills another, their ancient energy is dispersed within the remaining. So pretty much what Apocalypse did here is he took all the High Lord's energy and he took them into himself. That way he's able to power this gate and be able to fulfill the ritual that he wants to do, to be able to connect and push mutant kind into the future. Now, picking up with Rogue and Gambit on Otherworld, they came here to get something for Apocalypse, and that something is a gem. And this gem is actually hiding one of the externals, one of the High Lords. And it's hiding Kendra. She did it so that she would avoid what Apocalypse was going to do, because she knew it was coming and she thought that this was her only option. So to hide out here in Otherworld, she thought she might have a chance to be safe. So her being there with Apocalypse was just a ruse. It was more of like a ghost spirit, if you will. Now, as Rogue and Gambit are trying to get out of here, Kendra's really talking to Gambit and trying to convince him not to turn her over to Apocalypse. And as they're running down the halls, they're met by disciples of this area, and they start taking off. And this is when we go over to Lady Opal and Captain Britain. And really, Lady Opal is just letting her know, like, you aren't the only Captain Britain. You know, you can't just pick up the medallion and swear to serve people who don't want you. And pretty much she's saying that Brian Braddock was the better of the Captain Britons, and that having him there would be much more beneficial than having her. And this is when an intruder alert goes off, and Captain Britain and Opal take off, and they run directly into Rogue and Gambit. And Gambit has a choice to make here. He can try to hide this gem, or he can try to do something else with it. But what he decides here is, like, you know, he's not trying to help out Apocalypse that much. You know, he's not trying to do anything extra for him. But at the same time, Kendra's a High Lord. She's an external, and he wants to take them out. So, you know, to him, it's one external at a time. And he throws the gem into the gateway, and it pops out where Apocalypse is standing. And now they've created a permanent gate to the Starlight Citadel. And now the other world will now open wide before them. And that will be where this issue ends. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. How are you liking Ten of Swords? How are you liking this dive in? You know, this is really building into something awesome. You know, Apocalypse really did, you know, right off the bat, sacrifice these High Lords just really quickly. But, you know, this is all needed for what's to come. Now, you guys be sure to check out my other video that is coming out after this one. It will be X-Men issue number 12. And it will be following directly after the events of this. Personally, I am very excited for Ten of Swords. I think this is going to be one of the best Marvel lines or events that are going to come out this year. And I'm really excited to see how this all plays out, where it's going to land, and where mutants are going to be once we get out of this event. So yeah, if you guys haven't yet, be sure to like and subscribe to the page. And until the next video,